Yeah, hello everybody. So I think my speech is slightly longer. So I will sort of give you all a bit of run through about what is Jellyfish state at. Let me share my screen. Okay, I think I'll talk a bit slower. I think I was talking too fast the previous event. So I think uh the DeFi ecosystem. So what we have right now is the blockchain. So the blockchain pretty much sets the foundations or the ledger. So the ledger is so everything else that where everybody that's building on top of builds on top of the blockchain. So the DeFi ecosystem, which is what I'm leading at, is actually right now as it stands, is actually four projects. So the Jellyfish uh, is the library for all of it. The whale and the oceans is the super indexer and the infrastructure. Fiber is just the implementation that builds on top of it. So what I'm saying there is that we are phase two now is because I'm working on setting up the infrastructure. So if you are a developer, you don't have to host your own node. You can use the nodes that I'll be setting up. I think in about 2 weeks' time, you can see like the infrastructure getting set up all around the world. So what is the DeFi ecosystem? So the DeFi ecosystem at this stage is made out of three steps. So the Jellyfish sets the foundation. So the libraries are, so you can think of like Bitcoin, JS library. You can think of the Web3 library. You can think of the all the foundations libraries that like set up on top of the app. So that the foundation is if you are into construction or you know how construction does the things, the foundations pretty much the deeper we drill, the more packages, the more solid, the more tests we write, sets the foundation for what we build on top. And what we're building on top is the blockchain. So the whale and the ocean is the infrastructure project. So you have a way to connect to the blockchain, but how about connecting to the blockchain in a hyper decentralized infrastructure? So that's the whale and ocean project. So whale is the project. We call it whale because I thought it's an interesting name for it because DeFi whale, the infrastructure will be hosting all of our assets. And the ocean is pretty much I think we have sort of like an ocean theme going on here. So yeah, and fiber is pretty much the facilities and the amenities that can build on top of the Jellyfish ecosystem. So what is Jellyfish? So in this three-phase prompt, you can think of Jellyfish as a collection of a TypeScript, JavaScript, tools and libraries for DeFiChain blockchain developers, which is everybody here, to build decentralized finance on top of Bitcoin. So uh, if you look at the current libraries out there in the blockchain ecosystem, the blockchain ecosystem's libraries are very mature. So they are built more or less like 6, 7 years ago. But laws have changed in development today. So we have like React, we have like Vue, we have very modern way to build projects. But those are not very modern way to build projects. Like the current way that the Bitcoin JS ecosystem write their code is written in very olden paradigms. So what we needed was, in order to move fast in the 2021st paradigm, we have to rewrite the foundation from scratch. So written in TypeScript. So if you are TypeScript is pretty much trending and taking over the entire development lifecycle. It provides first class support for TypeScript. So you can look at the types and build on top of it. So build using modern JavaScript approaches. So we have you use like ES6 and above minimally, then it is strict. It is built in a mono repo. And it is transpiled backwards for compatibility. Meaning as a developer, you don't have to care whether this code, even though it's written in TypeScript, will work on your browser, will work on the platform they're building, because we transpile every single code backwards. And it is independence of like protocols, like allowing like vendor and a stick middleware adaptation. Meaning that you can use this, you can use your own server infrastructure because anyway everything is going to be open source, so you can actually just fork the project and as you do. So test container, then lastly what we have that is so special that I think that is really what makes us move very quickly is we have an ability to run a lightweight throwaway instances or reg test that is provisioned automatically in Docker. So if you download the project and you install the project, the moment you right click run all the test cases, they will search for a Docker environment and set up all the infrastructure to test whether this code works. So if you are a developer, you want to test whether uh, signing this transaction is correct or signing this transaction is malformed, you can actually send it through this container. And when you're done with setting up this test container, you can throw it away. So if you're very familiar with the Java ecosystem about test container, it's exactly the same thing. So you run your test cases through the test container. When you're done, you throw away the test container. And when you need it again, you create a new one. So So the phase one, I think a recap. Phase one, the project is not one library, it's actually 12 libraries. It's 12 packages. So 12 different packages that allow you to build the entire DeFiChain ecosystem. So when I say it's a collection of TypeScript and JavaScript tools and libraries, I meant it because it is 12 packages. And the first four, I think I will go through slightly what are the 12 packages. So the first packages is the DeFiChain Jellyfish. So it bundles up all the packages that we have. So if you use different, like let's say you use ESM or use CommonJS to build, you can use any of these bundles for your library. So if you have a browser plugin, you can just use the UMD, Universal Module format. Then we written everything in a protocol agnostic format, meaning that the DeFi blockchain client interface with a foreign function interface, meaning that we can adapt this to use any middleware. So whether is it the JSON RPC 1.0 or we can use a RESTful endpoint, because the whale infrastructure will be written in RESTful, whereas the node infrastructure will be written in JSON RPC 1.0. So that's allow you, the developer, to choose whether you want to run your node directly and interface with your node, or you want to run through the infrastructure that we're going to set up. And the next four sets of packages, which is Jellyfish cryptography, Jellyfish JSON, Jellyfish network, and Jellyfish transaction. So Jellyfish cryptography is basically I think it pretty much creates the interface for signing of transactions, doing the hash functions specific to the defined chain specification. And Jellyfish JSON provides number arbitrary precision for your implementation. So you don't have to rely, because if you are very familiar with JavaScript ecosystem, JavaScript is a very dynamic language. So it is very problematic, especially with dealing with numbers. What that does is, if you try to use number in an Ethereum ecosystem, number is only 32-bit precise. So you immediately lost precision if you use the default JavaScript precision, which is why we have to build we have to spend so much effort building Jellyfish JSON just allows us to do parsing. For Jellyfish network, so that's just pretty much holding a different network configuration for mainnet, testnet, and RESTnet. And the Jellyfish transaction, this is actually quite a complex one. So the Jellyfish transaction provides the transaction composer, because transaction itself is sort of a binary buffer. So we convert that from infrastructure into those buffer. So this Jellyfish transaction allow you to use a very dead simple but modern and stateless approach to build your transaction and then broadcast this. So a bit hard to go into this, but it's actually we pretty much define how the transaction is. So I think I have having a difficulty explaining what is this, so I might as well just show you what is this. So Jellyfish transaction is one of the biggest packages that we have. So the Jellyfish transaction itself, if you have code in Jellyfish, so if you know about how Bitcoin scripting works, you can see like these are all the semantics for structuring a transaction. And this is a segregated weakness transaction. And this specification is implemented specifically for the DeFi blockchain because we have a special DCIT ID. Yeah. And this allows bidirectional composing of from buffer to transaction. And you can use this to build your own transaction and then broadcast this. And the signing interface is also provided. At the moment, we only provide signing option through weakness program. So that is the SegWit hash or pay to weakness public key hash. So that's because the Light Wallet implementation only require that. So after we are done with that, I'm going to go back to revisit and start building up all the different transaction specification. Okay, so now roughly transaction, how to build a transaction in this Jellyfish package. So this is written really for your I think we try to write it very simple to use. So in fact, writing a segregated weakness transaction is also that simple. So you define the version, define the marker, define the flag, define your VIN, you compose your redeem script, and you define your weakness, you sign it, you broadcast it. That's all. So it's actually this 40 lines of code defines how you can just easily create a transaction and broadcast it. Yeah. So the next 4 packages of the 12 is Jellyfish Wallet, Jellyfish Wallet Mnemonic, and Jellyfish Wallet Whale. So Jellyfish Wallet is a new take. So this is created specifically for the Light Wallet implementation. So where we want to keep it very simple, so UX friendly. So where account can get discovered from a single seed, and then the seed can be created with a mnemonic seed. And you can then use the Jellyfish Wallet Whale, which is the Whale infrastructure, which is implemented on top of Jellyfish for stateless connections to our infrastructure that we're going to be providing as an open source project. Yeah. So that summarizes the DeFi Whale. So this is more or less done. So we are now heading into phase 2. So what is phase 2? So right now it's heavily in development, so I don't have a lot of materials for it. But what it is actually 2 projects. So what the 2 projects are is pretty much DeFi Whale is a super index for the DeFi blockchain to simplify DeFi Lite implementation. So you don't have to host your full node like you do download 100 gigs of data anymore. You can just proxy your connection to the DeFi Whale that is then hosted globally and distributed in a decentralized way around the world. So DeFi Whale will be hosted with the DeFi Ocean will host all the DeFi Whale infrastructure. So the timeline for this is about 2 weeks, and once we've done, we will start to integrate with the DeFi Fiber. So with that infrastructure being set, DeFi blockchain, Light Wallet can be then built on top of the DeFi Whale, the DeFi Ocean, and DeFi Jellyfish infrastructure. So that is where we are now, and then we will commence it phase 3 in 2 weeks time. So yeah, you can follow our progress here. So it's actually 4 packages right now. There will be more in the future because with the infrastructure set up, you can not just build Light Wallet. You can build infrastructures like a new Explorer that we are planning, a new governance project. So those are open source, so anybody can use it. If you don't like my implementation, you can fork it, and you can then take it from there. Yeah. So it is we license it to MIT, so you can easily take it from anywhere and adapt it to your needs. Yeah, that's all for me.
Hey, thanks, Fuxing. Yeah, I think even though it sounds really technical, Fuxing sort of barely covered the surface of what this whole Jellyfish ecosystem is all about. I just want to take like 2 sentences to kind of summarize to show the impact or the gravity of this whole Jellyfish ecosystem. So for those of you who comes from the early days of Ethereum, the first use case, the first thing that Ethereum launched on the client side was Ethereum browser. If you remember that, it's a full node wallet that has embedded Chromium browser embedded as part of the app. So you have to download you have to sync all the blocks from scratch. And then you can compare that to our DeFi wallet app today. You have to run the full node and everything. And then MetaMask came along and just completely took over the whole Ethereum evolution, if you're going to call it that. And and the other side of Ethereum as well, which is the developer side, the Truffle came around about 1 or 2 years, less than a year. Less than 2 years definitely, maybe around 1 or 2 years after Ethereum started, and that brought in a whole bunch of developers into Ethereum, and they started building stuff on it. So Jellyfish, it's a JavaScript library. It's actually more than a JavaScript library. It's the whole SDK that's going to bring in a lot of developers into native DeFi to build stuff on native DeFi for DeFiChain. So you can imagine the impact for that this Jellyfish is going to bring us for DeFiChain. Yeah, developers is one thing that I'm really happy that all of you who are pioneers are really building things on DeFiChain today. It's not easy. For those of you who tried it, it's not easy because we don't have good SDK for you to build on it. You have to kind of figure out how it works on a node side and all that. But with good SDK, it's going to make it really easy to build things, and everything's fully tested, and you know what to expect. All the results, you know what to get. Everything's all clearly documented. So I think this is going to be a huge evolution for DeFiChain, and it's going to bring a lot more developers, and people are going to start noticing the native DeFi and what this is all about. Yeah. On the other hand, Jellyfish actually more than just Truffle, more than just hard hat on Ethereum. So Ethereum is a new tool called hard hat now. The whole Jellyfish ecosystem with the Ocean part, that's like MetaMask plus Infura. So for those of you who come from the side, you will probably know what I'm talking about. MetaMask, like Wallet, Infura, it's like a hosted nodes that are run largely by Consensus, the company, right? And Ocean ecosystem, the way that Fusing has designed it, it's way more decentralized than Infura. It's a bit like Electrum. Like for those of you who knows how Electrum runs, it's a light wallet and it relies on a pool of servers that can run by anybody. They don't have your keys. They're just doing a public service and run a node, and then anyone can connect to it and you can use it. So it's like a very decentralized. That's why it's called Ocean. It's a very decentralized Ocean where you can plug your light wallet or your API calls into it, and you can do stuff on DeFiChain without having to download the full node anymore. So yeah, I have goosebumps to talk about it. I really can't wait that that this whole Jellyfish Ocean ecosystem is live. Yeah, great work, Fusing and your team. Thanks for sharing it. Armenia, unfortunately, is having some technical issues because it's on mobile and it's outside. So yeah, unfortunately, will not be able to provide I think we also talk a bit about the blockchain side. So the team's working hard on trying to complete our final round of interchain exchange. And we have also working on governance on the blockchain side. So I think a lot of you have heard about that. So we're not gonna dive a bit too deep there on that. And also our time slot is kind of up as well. We have half an hour. So it's your event, the community event. We don't want to hijack that. So thanks for giving us the time, Daniel, and all of you in the community side. Appreciate the first slot that we have. So I'm gonna hand over to Daniel. Thank you.